Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire, while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
Welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. This is your host, Rob Verhelst, better known as Fireman Rob. We love to have guests on here that inspire and motivate and give you stories that really give you that information that you can take and have it tangibly in your life. And today is no different. Dr. Mike Smith, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Fireman Rob. I really appreciate you.
Now, I've known Mike for a while here, and we kind of came along the whole speaking route together and really found our individual voices. Now, give you a background on Mike. Mike was a first sergeant for the Thunderbirds in the United States Air Force. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, absolutely.
Now, that is a key leadership role. Now, you told me at one time, how many first sergeants have there been for the Thunderbirds over the history of the United States Air Force?
So just to kind of put that in perspective, at the time that I joined, at any given time, there's probably 1,200 first sergeants in the Air Force, in the active duty Air Force. And out of that 1,200, there's only one at a time that has the honor and privilege to serve as the first sergeant for the Thunderbirds. So when I was on the team from 2006 to 2008, at the time I was hired, I was the 10th first sergeant in the history of the team. So by now they're probably up to maybe 15.
Oh, that's a huge number.
14 or 15 total. yeah, right.
not at all a huge number. Number 10. I mean, so that really speaks to your ability on leadership. I mean, I was in the United States Air Force. I wasn't a first sergeant, but you, as a first sergeant, kind of give the audience an idea of what you do as a first sergeant.
So as the first sergeant, you're kind of the go-between for the commander to all of the enlisted troops. That's kind of the link in between those two. And in that role, we're kind of like the big brother, the pastor, the counselor, a disciplinarian, a big brother, career guidance counselor. And we're responsible for the morale, the health, the welfare, and the safety kind of all the enlisted troops. And we help, implement the commander's vision, make sure everyone is aware of policies and programs and just kind of keep everyone on the same page in that bigger, well-oiled machine.
That's amazing. And in addition, one of the things that you and I have talked about a lot, and I think, the biggest thing that I like to bring out on these podcasts is the, extraordinary stories that people have, but that they're human too. And you and I have talked about PTSD and overcoming PTSD. And, I had a gentleman on not too long ago, Eric Beach, that had talked about his struggles with PTSD. And for the longest time, you put it in the closet and don't talk about it. Now, can you give the audience an idea? I mean, you've worked for Berkshire Hathaway. You're a United States Air Force. Now you're a president at a consulting coaching company. You think, God, this guy has everything together. But at one point it wasn't, right?
Absolutely not. And that's one of the things that I kind of learned the hard way about myself and now try to incorporate into a lot of my seminars, trainings and speeches is, it kind of all started when I was stationed at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. My very first assignment, I was in the services squadron. And part of our job, and I call it that because that's what it was, a job, was to do search and recovery. There was a lot of downed Marine choppers at the time, just for exercises and various reasons on the island. This was back in, the mid to late 80s. And you notice I said search and recovery, right? Because there was no rescue involved to it. And at that point, I didn't think a lot about what I was going through. And then fast forward to 1995, my first deployment to Saudi Arabia, again, still in services squadron. There was a terrorist car bomb that was set off in downtown Riyadh. that killed 5 Americans and 1 contractor. And again, at that point, I was the non-commissioned officer in charge of the mortuary recovery team.
Yeah.
So we had to pick up the bodies and inventory the personal effects. And, it's funny you mentioned about sometimes we suppress that and don't even realize that we have PTSD or are dealing with it. It wasn't until 2017 that it really hit me and everything just culminated, that the stuff that I was holding inside finally was in there long enough. And just through circumstances and through different things in my professional and personal life, it surfaced all those years later. But thankfully, up to that point, I realized that there was something not right. And I finally broke through the barrier of thinking that asking for help was a sign of weakness when really it's a sign of wisdom and maturity.
Right.
And so with the support of my wife, and actually you remember this, Fireman Rob, you were part of my support group as well. I reached out for help. And through that help and going through, the introspection of what was causing this kind of stuff, where it kind of all started, dude, I learned so much. And it just took me to another level of kind of, like my programming is breaking the mental sound barrier. It kind of took me to that point where now with that understanding, being able to embrace it and again, realize it's not a sign of weakness.
Right.
Like there's nothing weak about number one, going through that. And number two, asking for help. Sometimes we try to keep that inside and, some folks might even consider it, a badge of honor to not show weakness, but really that's kind of self-defeating and it could put us in a bad place. So again, through all those experiences, reaching out for help, building those relationships and just kind of pressing through it got me to the point where I am now. And once, I was able to free my mind of that emotional baggage and clutter that I didn't even know was there. It really, really allowed me to focus on the bigger picture of helping and serving others in the capacity I do now.
And you feel like you have your own voice. I've looked at, I've heard you speak and I've seen your materials and it's so amazing to see that you're speaking on things that are your experiences. It's not anything that you created out of thin air, right? But it's you're speaking from, this is why I'm still standing here and continuing to walk forward.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I like to say, and this is so profoundly true. It's such a simple statement, but when you really look at society today and when you start getting out there and talking to different groups or, even coaching individuals, generically speaking, across the board, we all have the same types of issues, maybe not the exact same issues, but the same types of issues in our lives that cause us to go on that emotional roller coaster. And, one of my favorite sayings is that which is most personal is most universal.
That's such a great statement.
And I really, thank you. And I really reflect on that, with everything I've gone through and where I am now and helping others. And one of the things I realized, and you coined this phrase, is your story gives you power.
True.
Right?
So true.
So looking back over my journey, there are so many things that I've been through. And now I'm actually thankful that I went through all that stuff, not realizing it at the time, but they say hindsight's 20/20. And when you look back over the road that you've traveled and the journey you've come through, you can really, really see how the pieces all fell into place to help you become the person you were called to be for this time. Like some of the stories I'm able to share, when I hear someone like on a one-on-one executive coaching, or, I coach a lot of executives and senior pastors as well. But when you hear someone tell you a story or a struggle or something they're going through that they just can't quite wrap their head around, all of a sudden I find myself being able to dig down deep inside me into that well of experience, right? And pull out that one moment in time where I went through a very, very similar thing. And now I can look back and see how I overcame it, made it through it, over it, under it, around it. And I'm able to kind of give some insight and advice to help them get there on their own, but kind of while partnering with them side by side. So again, for a while there, me and you have had this discussion before, but I was, feeling sorry for myself and was kind of just curled up in my corner and, why did this happen to me? Why am I going through this now? And I don't say that, proudly. I mean that with all humility. It was something that for some reason I just felt that I was, being picked on, or everyone else has it made and I don't. But, you were the one time that made me, and I mean that you made me, like you didn't give me an out. So
Gosh, anybody that knows me would be like, no, he
You-
doesn't do that.
Hashtag bully. No, I'm just kidding.
Motivator.
Um, yeah. But you made me stop, sit down, and actually write down all my accomplishments that I had achieved, right? The things that I had gone through versus focusing on why is this happening to me? You kind of shifted that lens and that perspective and said, dude, take the time. I'm going to call you back in 2 hours. I want you to write down everything that you've accomplished. Pull out your old performance reports if you need to. Look at your old letters of recommendation, commendation, whatever, right? But write all that stuff down. And then when I talk to you in 2 hours, I want to see where your head's at. And see, I'd forgotten about all that stuff. Like, you don't tend to focus on that when you're in that emotional battle in the heat of the moment. That's when and if we don't have, self-awareness and emotional control around those things, it's almost like a unhealthy, comfortable place to be, if that makes sense.
And I think a lot of people can relate to this that are listening, that a lot of times we put ourselves in success and failure based off of what other people do, or what is trending on social media, or what the society thinks is successful. And at the end of the day, you look at yourself and all the things that you've been through, and other people as well. It doesn't have to be grand successes. It's little things that make you who you are, and it's those failures like you were talking about. That's such a huge thing to talk about, the dark moments in your life. And for you to get to that point, what would you say is be like 2 things that you could give people an idea of really what brought you to even speak about those dark points?
Well, I think probably one of the first and most impactful realizations that I came to, that I would say helped in this, is, what I mentioned earlier, is just kind of realizing again that which is most personal is most universal. When I kind of, got outside of myself and realized that, the struggle is real for many people, right? I mean, it's there. It's just that sometimes we put on those emotional masks and go through the process of emotional labor, right? We pretend to be something we're not. We pretend we're okay. We try to put on that facade because we don't want to let others down. We don't want others to think we're weak. So just kind of all that. And generically speaking, I think we all have that to some degree, to some level, some more than others. But I think that was the first thing. And the second thing that I really, really came to understand after surrounding myself with, extraordinary people like yourself and
John, I didn't pay him to say
that. And folks like, John Matone, and Isaac Stegman, who's our CEO of Kaizen Coaching. I came to the realization of, individually, all of us, right, is that what we accept and allow ourselves to tolerate will dominate our thinking, our actions, and ultimately our results. So you notice in that statement, right, I said what we accept and allow ourselves to tolerate, right? So that implies that there's a choice.
Oh, it's huge.
And I think a lot of times we don't realize what we're doing to ourselves and the fact that there is a choice, right? And it really boils down to, at the end of the day, mindset, perspective, and objective reality versus delusion, which a lot of times, we paint those bad pictures in our mind. And I'll share a quick story with you. Like, this is an example I use all the time, even in my seminars. How many times close to the end of the day has someone out there gotten an email from their boss, right?
Right.
They read the email and they're like, oh crap, what did I do wrong? Right? Just because of the way you perceived and read the email. So you go to your boss's office like 3:45, they're not there, they're in a meeting. So you go back to your office, you sit down, you read the email again. You go back to the office at like 4:20 and they slipped out early because they had to go to a doctor's appointment. Right? So now that email's on your mind. You didn't have a chance to talk to them before the end of the day. So how well do you sleep that night?
Not well at all.
Right? So then you go in the next morning, get up early, stop by Starbucks because you need that shot of espresso to like get your edge because you're all just like ready to address this and take care of it. Go to your boss's office. Hey, boss, you got a second? They say, yeah, come on in. Hey, I just wanted to talk to you real quick, about that email. And they say, what email? Right?
Right.
But how many times do we do that?
Right.
We interpret and perceive tonality and meaning to something that really it's not even there. We just, for whatever reason, create that picture in our mind. So that's kind of like one of the stories I use, but it happens so often. And, that's really kind of self-defeating instead of just kind of putting that email aside and wait until you can actually talk to them face to face and see what was meant. We go through all the turmoil and anxiety that we create for ourselves. So
it's totally the reality.
Anyhow,
it's the reality. And going back to, your dark moments and kind of identifying that PTSD was part of who you are now. That's that reality check. It's like, oh, this is happening because of something else, or it's that owning of the bad moments as well as owning the good moments.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So now,
that ownership and personal responsibility. Yeah.
Oh, completely. So now, you have started this great adventure now, and I'm honored to be a part of it as well. But you are the president of Kaizen Coaching. Tell me a little more about that.
So a couple of months ago, Isaac Stegman, who's the founder and CEO of that company, and first of all, Kaizen, it's a Japanese word that means continuously improving, right? Constant improvement, getting better all the time. Yep. So that's what we kind of adopted as our theme and our mantra. So at Kaizen Coaching, we are a coaching and training company that focuses on the holistic view of the individual and the organization, right? There's several things within the company that we're still working on right now, and 2020 is going to be an exciting year. But we are getting ready to put some things in place and implement some things that are going to, seriously, and I mean this with all humility, it's going to set us apart as a world-class, top-notch coaching and training company. So again, the website for that is kaizencoaching.com. You can go there and check it out. And again, we're just going to do some great things. We truly care about the vision and mission of serving and helping others in a much larger capacity to make a global impact. Not to be cliche with that saying, but that's really what we're on a mission and a journey to do. And we've got some great people on the team that have different areas of expertise. But at the end of the day, we're all on the team for the same reason, and we're all like-minded. So I appreciate you mentioning that, giving us a shout out.
Definitely. I mean, because it's to impact in this world, and a lot of times people think it has to be this huge grand gesture. But realistically, it just takes a strong voice and a story that is true and real, and the honesty and the passion can be felt when you talk about it. And I think that's what I saw with Kaizen Coaching. That's what I see with you as well, and your message. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because if people want to find you, where can they find you? Because I think you'd be a great asset to have as a speaker at a lot of conferences. Where can they find you at?
So I can be reached on the Kaizen webpage. I have my own page there with the email and cell phone number, as well as I am on LinkedIn. And then I guess the other way would be to just reach out to me directly. My email is mike.s@kaizencoaching.com.
That's a great way to, your message for individuals that breaking the mental sound barrier. Tell us the guests a little bit more about the essence of what you speak about.
So breaking your mental sound barrier just really boils down to 7 high value targets. And I've done a lot of, I mean, you have talked about this, but I've done a lot of research and kind of boiled down like all of these mental and emotional barriers and blocks and maybe false beliefs and to 7 true things that really, if we address these and again raise the level of self-awareness around them, can just totally remove that emotional baggage and let us become who we're called to be. And a couple of those things are like strategic decision making, like I said, emotional control, ownership and personal responsibility, things like that. And so it's really, really just down and dirty. The bare bone minimum. Like if you get to the core of something that's causing an issue in any area of your life, 9 times out of 10, it can be traced back to one of these 7 barriers.
The greatest part about it is that they're all based off of your experiences, and people can take away such valuable little nuggets, and it's not taking away the whole thing as an aspect. It's taking away little parts of it and incorporating into your life and see how that changes, because changing a life is not about in essence like overhauling, like knocking down the house and rebuilding it, right? It's taking each room as it comes.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Now there are some things that you want to get rid of, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right. The things that are inside of you and kind of your mindset, that's shaped and formed by your environment, your upbringing, the kind of your landscape that you live in. And really at the end of the day, it just boils down to, again, that self-awareness, reframing, and moving forward, right? Crafting that clarity and that vision. And ultimately it's leveraging your strengths, right? And improving on your gaps or your weaknesses.
Mike, it's been a pleasure having you on. I know you got a short amount of time because this man is in demand. If you want to get a hold of Mike, it's mike.s@kaizencoaching.com. Mike, we're not going to do the 3 questions because you don't have time, but we're going to do the rapid round questions for you. I'm going to give you 2 things. All you got to do is say one of them. Okay. So are you ready?
Yes, I am. This is scary.
It's always scary when I'm on here. Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Soup or salad? McDonald's or Taco Bell?
Ooh, both.
That's an answer. I like that. Camping or hotel?
Okay.
Fly
Hotel.
or drive? Wake
Fly.
up late or sleep in late or wake up early?
Early.
Run or walk? Partly sunny or partly cloudy?
Partly sunny.
Fire or water?
Fire.
Use a porta potty or continued or run to the next physical bathroom?
The next physical
you're one of
bathroom,
those.
dog.
Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Okay. Go big or go home?
Go
I
big.
love it. Mike Smith, thanks so much for being on here. I hope everybody got a great little tidbits from Mike. He will be on this podcast again as we move forward. But Mike, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.